Hi, I'm Dr. Lance Knaub, and welcome to another episode of Moving Mountains. I'm here today with James Masotti, owner and founder of our accounting team. James, thanks for joining. So happy to have you here. Hard to believe we've only known each other for maybe less than a year. I know we were just talking about Sheena Potts, fantastic person, fitness person, pivoted into the financial world, connected us. So for those that don't know you, let's tell everyone about your amazing journey and story, and definitely include a little bit about you personally. I know I'm impressed about a lot of things. So tell us all that and how we got to here today.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it as quick as I can. Thanks for having me on. So my background, I guess, is my degree's in international studies, and kind of had a untraditional path, through school, and that I went to a lot of different schools. I graduated high school, moved to Germany. From Germany, ended up getting an appointment to the Air Force Academy, came back to the US, enrolled in college just for a semester to get ready, went to the academy. Being told what to do wasn't a great fit for me, so then I left, transferred back. Then I studied abroad in Japan, kind of bounced all around.
Yes.
So kind of just came back from Japan, needed some work, started working, and a company actually hired me because of my German to go work in the software industry. Okay. So I finished my degree over in Germany while I was working over there, kind of through remote courses. And from there, again, I had this degree in international studies, but I was working at a software company, and that kind of started a 15-year career in supply chain, where I eventually ended up leaving that last year, and as vice president of supply chain for a $350 million private equity owned food processing company, and really kind of learned that my passion was for coaching and developing, mentoring. I got pretty active in real estate investing. A few years ago. I started a property management company, and so just through all of that, kind of realized my passion was in that coaching and mentoring and guiding. And because of the experiences that I had built around building teams and cultures and putting in systems and processes, and I did a lot of technology integration and things like that, that it was really critical for a lot of small business owners. There's a book called The E-Myth Revisited. So it's that idea of like that technician, right? They know their craft and their skill really, really well, but how to actually run a business was something a lot of folks struggled with. And so last year I acquired my accounting firm, and kind of pivoting and really kind of focusing on specifically the construction and roofing, home services kind of space. Again, they've got a great skill, a great craft, they add a lot of value, but a lot of times they need help with, how do I create all those systems and processes and get my finances and everything like that in order. So, yeah.
Okay, good. No, there's a big need. Congratulations for better financials and like entrepreneurs to know their numbers. And I'm sure that industry as well, I would think that's very underserved. So, and I know I wasn't even really familiar with this whole acquisition entrepreneur concept until maybe the last 18 months. And you've lived it now, and we should definitely explain to everyone, how that really like totally flips the risk. And so with our accounting team, I love the swag.
Yeah.
What, now that you're in it for 18
months? Almost a year. So I acquired the business right at the end of April last year.
So where are you right now with the business? And what's going well? What are your specialties?
So the big pivots really are, I'm a big fan of the entrepreneurial operating system, so Gino Wickman's book, Traction. Last year, kind of bringing that to the team. I've got a great team. We've got some team leads leading, my team of accounting specialists and things along those lines. So going through EOS, actually later today, we have our quarterly EOS meeting, so I'll be spending the whole rest of my day doing quarterly strategic plans and stuff like that.
I love it.
But I also knew really coming in to the business wanting to get involved with profit first professionals. So as a real estate investor, I kind of got tied in to the ETA community through Walker Deibel's book, Buy Then Build.
ETA.
Entrepreneurship through acquisition. Sorry, the acronym is ETA,
good.
Sorry.
And for everyone that doesn't know, Profit First is Michael Michalowicz, another accountant. And I'm a big fan as well. So.
So Mike Michalowicz, he's an awesome guy. He's written a ton of books on Embrace, different things. Profit First is probably his most well-known book, but there's a group of us, basically there's about 700 globally, 600, 700, something like that. But we're trained really in this idea of how to really ideally use cash management in businesses in a way that you don't get in traditional financial statements, right? So it's all about how do we ultimately prioritize. It's a mindset shift. It's a behavior shift. We utilize elements from human psychology and human behavior to really drive the proper behaviors to improve business profitability. And I knew that going in. It was part of my business plan when I acquired the business. I literally was on the phone with them doing my intake call 3 days after I acquired the business to become a certified profit first professional. So that was a big part of the plan. So yeah, so we've implemented EOS, going through profit first. We've also gone through kind of like a pricing change. So we were on an hourly model, which we didn't really feel like served our clients very well. We really, through EOS, we established kind of what our values as a company were. And so for us, our values are human first, team second, an appreciation of humor, and join the party. And so we really didn't feel like, we could live those values if our clients felt like they were constantly on the clock, when they were working with us. So we created, kind of some fixed rate pricing packages where they get access to kind of different tiers of service with us so that we can really deepen that engagement and really serve them as best we can. So, a lot of changes. We've done some internal software changes. We've had some folks leave. We've brought some new folks in. So, I mean, it's definitely been an eventful year through the business.
Out. And I do love the move away from hourly because I always kind of use accountants and attorneys as an example of saying that I'm personally more of a value-based, guy and believer rather than hourly, which totally promotes inefficiency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I said, it just, to me, it's, I want to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of value on the relationship, right? And when there's dollars associated with time, then your people tend to focus on the cost rather than the value, right? And so when they just know, hey, I have to make a financial commitment, but then from there, the amount of value is effectively, unlimited. You have to be careful and do as best you can to set some boundaries within, pricing packages and what people have access to. So I would say we're still learning through that navigation with the transition, especially with our existing clients that are used to certain levels of access. With newer clients, we're trying to be a little more diligent with that kind of upfront. But like I said, ultimately, it's the right thing to do for serving the clients.
Congratulations for taking existing business, already successful, making it more successful, putting EOS and Profit First in place. Now with you not being formally trained as an accountant, also kudos to you because so many of us would probably be intimidated if I'm not a physical therapist, how do I have a physical therapy business? And one of my mentors, she worked at IBM and she was an engineer and she ended up managing all these technical people. So I do know it's possible, but how are you making that happen?
Yeah, so again, one, I've got an amazing team of folks that really do have the great skill in the technical weeds of things. I have gone to community college and kind of taken accounting courses to know the little nuts and bolts of how to do the work.
You don't want to know too much because then you might actually have to jump in.
Well, we were talking just before. I mean, I had an issue come up in my own books, that I had to go to one of my team leads and be like, I don't know how to fix this problem. Can you please help me? So I definitely am not the kind of in the weeds, but one of the great lessons kind of through, being an entrepreneur, having my own business, through the real estate stuff, but even through my corporate life, in supply chain, I was always working very closely with our corporate controllers on, the budgets and the spending. And so at the higher level side of the accounting stuff, right? How do I make a budget? How do I plan for when to hire people? How do I know what's kind of going on, to use your numbers to make those strategic plans? That's stuff that I'm very comfortable with. And so the really interesting thing, like if you look at small business, right? Somebody who typically would sit in like a controller or a CFO level position tends to have a lot of the operational responsibilities that sit on their plate. So that could be, figuring out what technology they're going to use or, having the operations folks oversee them. Because a lot of times, founders tend to be more sales and marketing driven, right? And so if they bring in somebody else, they kind of have that. So while as I kind of say, like, I'm not a traditionally trained accountant or, didn't work for a big four, and I'm probably not gonna be able to help you go public or maybe raise some sophisticated investor capital if you're trying to do a seed round or something. If you're trying to figure out how to run your business more profitably and what's going on in the nuts and bolts of things, man, I can nerd out there all day long with the best of them. So.
Okay, nice. Oh, I love that. That almost sounds like your unique selling proposition. That would be attractive to me. Like if you want to run your business more profitably, and probably really with your passion for processes and things, most entrepreneurs really resonate with wearing less of the hats and moving towards more of a self-managing company. Yeah,
and that's and one of the ways that I can really come to it is because I'm not an accountant. Like as I kind of say, like I don't speak like an accountant. So I'm going to talk with folks like they're business owners, and like again, what I want to know is like, okay, what's important to you as a business owner? What are your goals, not only in your business, but in your personal life, so that we can be building plans and not be focused on like, hey, here's your important financial metrics, or here's how you read your profit and loss or your balance sheet, but really more so focused on, hey, what are the numbers that you want to track? How do we set up key performance indicators, KPIs, and numbers that we can use from your data to make sure you're on track to hit what's important to you as a business owner, and forget what's important to your tax preparer or to your bank.
Totally.
You know, and that's a whole separate kind of thing.
Totally different.
Yeah.
So time is already flying. I'm loving this. However, I want to do one thing before we take a quick break. I always love to ask guests how you're doing all these amazing things. How have you gotten through the valleys, the low points, the rock bottom moments, including, you already mentioned mindset. How does that work for you?
Yeah, you got to surround yourself with other people. So Profit First is awesome because there's actually a whole community. We have guides inside of being Profit First professionals that help us through. They do literally coaching calls every single day where you can jump on and ask questions and help support each other. Recently, I've also kind of jumped into a personal branding mastermind group.
Yeah, you've shared that.
Yeah, Builders of Authority, and with Adam McChesney. Anybody who's interested in that, there's a free Facebook group, there's a paid thing. It's absolutely amazing. I don't get anything for referring it other than I've gotten a ton of value and love to see other people who are interested in building their business through personal branding go jump on there. So a little plug for Adam and his group, because they've been amazing to me. And really the reason for that is, like I said, that's done worlds for kind of my mindset, and you know, kind of I struggle with some imposter syndrome because I'm not an accountant. You know, I've struggled with it because I was an international studies person, live in the supply chain world. You know, even going to, you know, I was a vice president at a company, and I'm, you know, at 35 years old, you know, and so it's like a lot of people go their whole lives trying to push for that, and just always had people telling me, hey, you can't do this, can't do that. So at the end of the day, you know, entrepreneurship, I mean, it's a lot of ups and downs. And the number one thing is you can't do it alone. And so whether it's find groups, find mentors, find coaches, that is the absolute best thing, because I could not do this alone. That's the simple answer.
Coaches need coaches. No,
Absolutely.
I love that. Great answer. We're going to come right back. Everyone stay tuned, and James is going to share how he stays healthy amidst this startup phase and avoids burnout. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede moverse, pero existe otro síntoma de ataque cerebral que muchos de nosotros no vemos. Se llama negligencia espacial y puede ocurrir durante o después de un ataque cerebral, causando movimientos visuales distorsionados. Afortunadamente, existe una solución que utiliza tecnología óptica basada en prismas durante la rehabilitación. Si usted o su ser querido experimenta un ataque cerebral, pregúntele a su doctor sobre la negligencia espacial. Encuentre más información en kesslerfoundation.org.
Weeds. They have you surrounded. You just gonna stand there? Or are you gonna take your lawn back?
We're gonna take it back.
We're gonna take it back.
With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, it gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and keeps your lawn growing strong. Glorious!
No, no.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed.
Feed your lawn.
And Doug.
Hey, man. Nice base. Clearly you're a safe driver. You could save hundreds for safe driving with Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Woo! We gotta go again.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I learned how quickly everything could be taken away. 1 minute, I was playing college football. The next, I was paralyzed. I'm Eric LeGrand. I believe I will walk again, but also know what I can do now. I'm applying my love of the game as a sports broadcaster and inspiring others along the way. Only my abilities matter. Visit Kessler Foundation on Facebook and tell us your abilities. And go to KesslerFoundation.org, where only abilities matter.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser.
Moving Mountains, I'm Dr. Lance Knaub. I'm here today with James Masotti. James, so much good stuff already. Love the focus on helping other entrepreneurs, especially underserved people, businesses like the roofing business and the construction business, right?
Yep.
Yeah. With really making their numbers more useful so they can, you know, succeed,
Yeah.
right? Survive and thrive. So talking, I guess, about you personally, jumping into a business and trying to get everybody in the right seats and bring on the right people and, remove the wrong people. How are you staying charged and healthy? Like, would you consider this a startup phase where it's really like all hands on deck? And if so, how are you making time? I know you actually told me you're doing Insanity.
Yep.
How much sleep you getting?
Yeah.
How you doing it?
Yeah, so I would say it was interesting. So the honest answer is I probably was a little too comfortable in the beginning. Things were honestly going like real easy,
Yeah.
and I kind of wasn't as on the gas pedal as I needed to be. Some of that was probably a little bit of like burnout from 15 years. My last role, I was like traveling to Rhode Island and Utah a lot and stuff along those lines. So like, but then, kind of, got to a spot where, I needed to jump on the gas pedal. So it feels a lot more startup-ish now. There's like nothing, a lot of craziness going on. For me, again, we talked about my operations background, which is all great, but I've never had to do sales and marketing, and I feel really good with the sales process now in the sense of, just knowing the value that we can bring and when we get connected with the right person.
And are you the one actually having sort of
for the most part. So we've got my team leads involved. So like our process is kind of like I'm doing that initial fit. So now that we've really dialed in on our culture and our values and things like that, we want to protect, the team and make sure that we're connecting the right folks.
Hear about you with the lifestyle, but no, that was
and so like that's the first part. But then again, getting into the technical analysis, I'm not an accountant, so I do bring my team leads in so that they can really dig in, so we understand the scope of a project, so we can price it properly. But so again, we're really dialing that up. But again, the marketing is something that I've never had to do before. So I'm learning all of this new stuff in marketing and really trying to dial in to figure out how do I, there's Mike Michalowicz has another book, and he kind of says like, you could be the best person out there, but if people don't know you exist, it doesn't matter, and so really learning the marketing of being like, hey, we've got a lot of value to bring to folks. How do we get people out there to know about it?
I just finished Hormozy, 100-minute leads, but so how are you managing, learning all these new things with your stress levels and lifestyle and schedule?
Yeah. So with that, from a sleep perspective, I've always, I try to get to bed somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock every night.
And you're like a military guy. So
I've always been a morning person. So right now my alarm goes off at 4:15. Get up. I am a trail ultra runner, as I kind of say. Unfortunately, I've been injured for a good chunk of the last 2 years, so I'm hoping to run another trail ultra this fall. It'll be 2 years since my last one, but love running, usually get up and run. I've got plantar fasciitis right now, so I'm not doing that, but really was like, okay, I need to focus on the strength and stuff like that. So that's where Insanity came in. I'm about a month into doing Insanity, just trying to improve my strength and conditioning and all that stuff. So do those in the morning, try to get out for some walks and things along those lines.
4:15 to 9, so you're getting a decent amount of sleep, right?
Yeah. So as I said, people are like, oh, you get up that early, and it's like, if you do the math on it, it's like I'm still getting like 7 hours of sleep a night or something like that. And so it's, I don't feel like it's a crazy amount, or it's not like a little. In college, I was probably doing, the 4 or 5 hours thing, but I can't stay up. I'm too old now. I can't stay up late. I can't do it. But yeah, so like I said, I love to run. That really, it helps me clear my mind, especially out in the woods, in the mountains, like stuff like that. That's my preference, but I'll run on the roads and stuff like that too.
Anything specific for mental health?
So that's actually on my personal goals for this year, is to improve my mental health. Again, I definitely struggle with a lot of, not severe mental health issues, but I would say, like I go through bouts of anxiety and depression, and I'm a stress eater, and again, I deal with imposter syndrome, and I've got a lot of that stuff. So there's a really great book that another acquaintance of mine turned me on to, which is Positive Intelligence by Charmaine Shirzad. There's a lot of really great stuff there. They talk about like your I'm blanking on the word right now, but anyway, it's the sabotagers. They're saboteurs. So like these behaviors and these mindsets that sabotage kind of how we feel, and then your sages, which are like the positive energy and how to and the things that you can do. So I've been doing a lot of work with that, trying to kind of just reframe a lot of my mindset on things. And so like I've put a lot of emphasis on my physical health in the past, and really trying to do a lot of mental health work this year.
I love it. So good. Good for you. 7 hours sleep, getting up early. Nice. Yeah. So I know you've got a lot of passion for helping entrepreneurs prepare to, exit their, I prefer like the term succession plan. Mm-hmm. How do you help entrepreneurs do that? What are some of the best things that everybody listening can start to do? Yeah, so, I was actually talking with a new client about this just the other day, where they were kind of like, I'm not that interested in wanting to sell my business. And it's like, this is what my plan is. And it's like, well, the biggest thing is like, you actually never know what's going to happen, right? Like, you get that person that's going to call you up, and all of a sudden. Why wouldn't you want a more valuable asset along the way that's then also more profitable.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest things, it's a lot of those entrepreneurs, again, especially if you're talking about businesses that are doing, call it sub $3 million in revenue, right? The business owner a lot of times is the one working in the business, right? And not on the business. Right. And, when you do that, what you've got is a really high paying job. You don't have a company to be able to sell, right? And so a lot of it is, that focus on like, okay, let's start tracking where your time is. Let's start looking at the financials. Let's make sure that the work that you're putting in as an operator is included in the proper expense categories so that we know what your real profitability is. Do we need to address your pricing? Do we need to do a lot of the hard work where, as a new person coming in, if you have to tackle all that stuff, that lowers the value that somebody's willing to pay because they have to do that stuff. If you've already put in the work because you've got those relationships, to get the culture right internally, to get, the value proposition right with your clients, to do all those sort of things, then one, you've got stronger financials, you've got good financials because we've been keeping up with it, but almost as important is you've got the systems, you've got the processes, and as an owner, you're more focused on the higher value things rather than working in the business all the time. So you're never gonna get somebody who's used to that 80 plus hours, like completely all the way down until they're completely exited usually, but you gotta get them thinking like, okay, this isn't about you and what made sense for you. You now need to start setting this up for somebody else that's coming in. And that's a whole different animal.
I think your passion for coaching is really, there's a massive need and opportunity here for you to help, business owners. Yeah. Because the accountants in general, in my experience, haven't done that. And we almost forced that to like go on site and meet with our accountant monthly, and they were all like a pseudo, CFO for us. So I think that's gonna be fantastic. And I love the point that you said about, making sure they're getting paid for the roles they have themselves. And you're looking at profit beyond that.
Right.
Because I can remember just, during the pandemic, a coffee shop, was telling me they had like 40% profit and they were looking to sell. And then when I said, well, what are you working and is that in the numbers? And we added that back in. It went from an asset to a liability. Yep. Because to replace them would have, totally put them, in the red.
Exactly.
So, okay, so good. So we've talked about so many things. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you really want to make sure we share? And connected to that, what would be your best boiled down thoughts for all the entrepreneurs and leaders listening that want to achieve the highest success in life and business that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so one of the things we just talked about kind of exit, but one of the other things that we're getting ready to kick off here is we're creating a group coaching program for folks that are, whether they're starting or you've got somebody in-house that is working on kind of the accounting, the books, things along those lines, and they don't have traditional accounting training or background. I've seen a lot of folks, they have these like generic like QuickBooks or Accounting 101, but it's not an opportunity to get specific help and support. And so we're creating this, it's a twice a month kind of group coaching program where you come on, I'm gonna have my team leads there and you can ask your very specific questions about, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or QuickBooks had this issue or whatever it might be, and get that coaching. So if that's something that folks are interested in, that's kind of a much lower tier. We want to really help out, smaller businesses or businesses that are kind of growing and maybe can't or don't want to make that big commitment to a full-time package. You can go check out our website, ourteamaccounting/dreamteam coaching, and that's going to get you to kind of a landing page where you can kind of get signed up, get you some more information, talk through how to get signed up for that. So if that's something that's interesting, that's also something we're trying to do to help folks that are kind of in that growth stage, and because we want to be able to have something to be able to offer from growth all the way through kind of that exit planning kind of thing. So that's something we're also pretty excited about being able to roll out.
I love it. That's awesome. And then how about some really boiled down thoughts for all the listeners?
Yeah, the number one thing I would say, for listeners when you're thinking about your accounting and all that kind of stuff, especially we're coming right out of like tax season, everybody's always worried about like, oh, don't want to pay the government, I want to get my tax burdens down as much as possible. And the most important thing is healthy, financially profitable companies are going to pay taxes. And so there's one thing to have tax strategies, tax planning to minimize as best you can, but when I see people, trying to spend money on this or spend money on that to lower their tax liabilities, and then what they do is they're constraining their business because they're not keeping enough cash in it for that long-term health. There's something like 80% of businesses die within the first 10 years of being out there. And in 2007, US Bank did a study, and 85% of the time that a business closed is because of cash flow issues. Yeah. And so you want to be there for the long term, keep cash in your business, show some profit, pay a little bit of taxes, you'll be in for the long run.
Okay, great. And if there's anything personal you want to mix into the messaging, share that. And if you could let everybody know how they can find you, follow you, best ways to any other programs or offers that you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So to find us, Our Team Accounting, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. So you can find us on any of those platforms. Again, our website, ourteamaccounting.com. And in terms of me, I'm pretty active on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram, a little bit on LinkedIn. You can find me on all of those at James Masotti.
And you've become a lot more active on social media lately. I know my coach has nudged me, and I'm now, even on TikTok. My kids laugh. So, I'm loving your posts as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big part of, again, the mastermind group that I talked about from personal branding. It's all about, like I said, when you've got a message, when you've got a voice, when you've got an audience that you're trying to serve, again, you have a responsibility to be out there and let them know kind of what's on your mind. So it's, it's really just about, kind of coming out of my shell. I was never comfortable on social media for a lot of it, but it's, that's where the audience is, and so you got to go where your clients are, and a lot of the construction and roofing client base that I want to support, they hang out on Facebook. So that's where you're seeing a lot of my content going right now.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lance.
Coming in today, and good to see you in person again. And we'll definitely keep in touch with all these things.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Okay. Awesome, James. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. And please join us next week for our next episode of Moving Mountains.